Welcome back to Opinionated Presents Hanging with Hicks. And today, this guy right here is my center. He's probably one of the most selfless people I know. He's serving the community as a firefighter, saving lives now. Today's guest, Garrett Underwood.
I think it's time that I welcome y'all to my show. I think it's time I welcome y'all. Come watch my victories, yo.
Garrett Underwood, man, my brother. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
I mean, we haven't seen each other in a couple months now since my party in November, but, every time we get to meet each other and see each other, it's always just a class reunion in itself almost. But just tell the people a little bit about who Garrett Underwood is as a person.
Man, I don't know really what to say. Grew up down in Homestead. I'm a firefighter, paramedic with Orange County Fire Rescue right now, and doing just what I've always wanted to do. Didn't think at the time that's what I wanted to do or what I was going to do, but it's what I ended up doing, and can't complain one bit.
You're just living. But before we get to the firefighter side of things, let's talk about your life upbringing in Homestead, Florida.
Okay. I'm fourth generation Homestead. My family came down, turn of the century, been farming ever since. So they've seen Homestead grow from nothing to what it is right now, the way it's grown up. Like I said, Dad was a farmer, Mom was a teacher. He taught at Southridge for years and then ended up at South A when we were there. But basically football, being outside, hunting and fishing, like that's what my life consisted of. Knew how to drive tractors and ride four-wheelers before I could ride a bike. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple to seem like, your upbringing was like a blue-collar life. I mean, you didn't mind getting your hands dirty, obviously, with the farming and things of that nature, fishing, hunting. But fast forward, how did you get into football? Was that like a family thing? What was that?
Yeah, that was as soon as I was old enough. My dad went down to Harris Field when it was still Dick Conley League before it is what it is now, and signed me up. So first grade, I was in pads playing middle linebacker of all things, and then next go around, they found out I could snap a ball, and so ended up at center and stayed center for
Ever
16 years.
So fast forward into high school, being on the football team at South Day, obviously that's one of the big things that everybody wants to accomplish and be a part of if you're a young male who loves to play football. You went in on tryouts and you're like, hey, I know if I say I play center, I'm going to automatically be on the team and I'm going to be starting. Most people don't even want to play offensive line when they get to high school, but what made you feel so comfortable enough to not only say I want to play offensive line, but I'll be the center?
I think it was just because it was what I'd always played that ever since, like I said, my second grade. I'd been snapping the ball and playing center is where I felt comfortable at on that O-line, and it's what I felt comfortable doing. I'd been doing it for so long, so going in and just saying I wanted to play center and knowing that I could play that position, that's what I felt comfortable going for.
And I mean, most times on a team, people believe like the quarterback is the captain, is the leader of the team, but you came in as a freshman and you were leading the team from the center position. And not only were you a center as a freshman, but when you got up as a sophomore, you were starting on varsity. I mean, tell us a little bit about that experience, because not too many people can start as a sophomore in South Florida playing Dade County football.
It was nerve-wracking at first, just because of from freshman year going from JV and being being on top down there, and then going up to varsity after that and getting smacked around by the seniors. Then it was like, oh man, I've got a long, long ways to go. And then sophomore year going against the talent that, we go against down here in South Florida, going against guys that ended up going D1 playing for Louisville and stuff like that. I got smacked around, but it's all about getting back up and still going out there and performing your job. So it's one of those things that it's growing pains, you get over it. It's nerves, you get over it, and you just got to keep pushing through and keep getting back up and doing your job. And then eventually it'll all turn out on the good side for you.
And then, I mean, while we're on track of high school football, man, let's talk about, I'm going to mention a word and you just tell me what it means to you, okay?
Yeah.
Beefy boys.
Those are the guys that are always going to have that special place in my heart. Those are the guys that We sat there all summer, went through summer workouts and training together, went through two-a-days when two-a-days were still a thing together. We stuck by each other no matter what, helped each other out no matter what. And, I mean, seeing the way that it ended up, I know I can text and call any one of those guys, and even if it's somebody that I haven't talked to in a while, I see them out in public or something like that, and it's just automatic from just start up conversation, and we can sit there and talk for hours on end.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of us, if you play football, you grew up watching like Friday Night Lights. You saw the movie or you saw the TV show, and you're like, man, I wish that my life can somewhat imitate that. But to actually go and play high school football and go and win a state championship, I mean, take us back to 18-year-old Garrett Underwood. How are you feeling at this point?
Before the state championship or?
Before, during, and after.
So I'll be honest, I've told you this before. Going into the season, I didn't think we were going to amount to much, man, because like the year before that, we lost so many guys because they graduated and moved on. You know, Keno just transferred in. We never played with them. We knew Billy was good, but he just never really played.
He's just Billy.
You know, I had played with you and stuff and everything, but it's still one of those things where it was like, you know, getting actual
growing
time
pains.
and yeah, just growing pains and stuff. And then Mike, who we never really played with either, and plus he was younger, so
he was a sophomore, I think.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where I was like, man, I don't know. And then you know, the older guys that graduate kind of, and older people, they were like, man, you know, you guys probably
aren't going to be as
good. You know, yeah, which is typical, but yeah, it was one of those things. I was like, well, you just got to come in and attack this. So it was one of those senior year summer. I didn't go to any lineman camps like I had gone to before. I said I wanted to stick with my team the entire summer, stick with you guys. We need to build a relationship and stuff because based off of spring ball with all the guys we had coming.
And I mean, at what point did you know? Because I kind of figured out when we had a chance, but at what point did you say, you know what, man, we got a chance to actually win this whole thing?
I don't know if I ever had that. I think it was just I was scared of the season ending. I think all of us. I mean, I've talked to like CJ, Nate, and you about this and stuff. I think we were just scared of the season ending and football being done with. So it was just one game at a time for us.
I think for me, it was definitely after the Coral Gables game. I said, okay, we got a chance to do this.
I would agree with you on Gables, and then probably the next round, Palm Beach Gardens.
Yeah, I mean, after we demolished them.
Yeah, once we got to Palm Beach Gardens and what we happened to them, what we did to them and everything, I was like, all right. Like,
I mean, we get the states, and of course, we're playing the team of the state, essentially. This team is putting up 60-plus points a game in high school football. That's rare. They're having amount of yards that they're having, and they're telling us a team from Homestead, Florida, that nobody has heard of is supposed to compete with them. And we end up coming out on top, and we end up winning our first state championship ever in school history. But, you know, tell us about how that felt afterwards. Because, I mean, now you're going from, you know, a little team that nobody heard of to now you're the big dogs in the state. And it's like you can pretty much walk anywhere, and everybody's trying to give you stuff for free.
I mean, it was like that. Like, I felt like we rode that high for a while. I think we wore our state championship shirts for like 2 months after the game, and then
we wore it to graduation almost.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did too. And then we had to have a talking to that we were breaking dress code.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, man, like, come on, let it go. And it's like, we can't let it go just yet. But I mean, the night or the morning after the game, me, CJ, Kevin, we went to Royal Palm and got breakfast, and like everybody in Royal Palm was talking about it. We went and hung out with like Teresa and all of them, and like her dad went to South Dade. All of his buddies were talking about it, so it was like the whole state was talking about it.
And then one time, you and I forgot who else we were with. We went to Burger King, and they gave us a free meal at Burger King. They were like, "Oh, y'all," because we were wearing our state shirts. They were like, "Oh, y'all are state champions." But I mean, like, we know that was a big deal. I wanted to highlight that and relive that moment. But now, you know, you graduate from South Dade, you go off to Elmhurst College in Chicago, Illinois, or Chicagoland area. I won't disrespect my Illinois people who tell me which part of Chicago is the real Chicago. But you go off to Elmhurst College. How is that transition going from Miami sunny weather to Chicago weather?
It was a culture shock for me. Not just like the people alone, but like you said, like the weather and everything. It was just weird. I know the first couple of days I was like, what am I doing here? Like I questioned why I was there. Like I'm how many ever thousands of miles it is from home. Never really left home for more than a week or two at a time. But you kind of get used to it after a while, like how nice everybody is, I guess. But it was definitely, it was a learning curve.
I remember you texting me because a lot of people don't understand, like, you were one of the few white boys on the team in high school. So when you got to Elmhurst, you're like, man, my whole team is white. This feels weird. And you were like, I don't like it.
It was weird. And like you said, being like, one of, I think, 5 white guys that started on a football team and stuff, to all of a sudden going to playing with guys that, they only had like one black guy on their team or something like that, or one for the whole school or the community and stuff. It was different for me. I wasn't used to that. I was used to kind of having like a giant melting pot, of just everybody's from different cultures, different backgrounds, different ways of growing up and stuff. But we all got together.
Exactly. And I mean, like, when you were at Elmhurst, like, what did you major in?
Exercise science.
Okay. And I mean, like, is that something that you saw yourself doing, or was it just, I'll do it because I need to fill a void? And
it was one of those things where it was like, I kind of wanted to go that physical therapy, do like the physical therapist route, because like I grew up, one of my dad's buddies was Dickie Spearoff, the physical therapist in Homestead, and that everybody goes to. So it was I was like, I like that. I'm really into the weight room in high school. I'm like, that might be something I'm interested in. Not a business person. Dressing up's not my thing. Working in an office at a desk isn't my thing. So it was one of I saw myself doing it. And once I got into college and got into the major and really started doing the anatomy class and everything, I'm like, oh man, this is something I would, I could do this. I can go to physical therapy school. But didn't turn out that way. Got kind of burnt out from being in class and doing school and stuff. So it was coming up on graduating. I'd taken the GRE to get in physical therapy school, scored extremely average, so I wasn't that great of a candidate, especially since with football and everything, I didn't really have like the hours, that they wanted for volunteer work. So both my mom and my uncle both sent me a flyer that Miami-Dade Fire Rescue was hiring. And I was like, well, that's cool, but I don't have my EMT cert. I'm not a paramedic. I don't have my firefighter cert for the state of Florida. So how am I supposed to do? And you didn't need any certs to apply.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, you know what? I'm like, I could definitely see myself doing that. So it was like, the month leading up to graduating, and I'm like, man, I really got to make a decision. What am I going to do? Am I going to like take a year off and study for this GRE and try to do better? Or am I going to go after something that I'd actually wanted to do since middle school?
Oh, wow.
Because South Dade used to have a magnet program that was first responder, like fire rescue type stuff. And I think it was the year that we came in, they didn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So I was kind of bummed out by that. So that's when I ended up doing exercise science at South Dade, that magnet program. And it just kind of transitioned into college and stuff. And so leading up, graduating, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to chase after this firefighter route.
And I mean, I want to kind of backtrack before you were getting into the firefighting situation. You become, all conference football player. You graduate from Elmhurst. But then you have this massive weight loss, man. Like, you transitioned your whole body from, being a heavier offensive lineman to the man we see today. I mean, how was that process? I mean, how much weight did you lose during this time?
It was definitely a difficult process, because it was kind of taking certain things out of your life that like had always been there. College, always drinking and stuff. My main drink of choice was beer back then because it was so cheap and you can get a 30 rack of it. But I started losing the weight when I was 275, 280 was like my playing weight all throughout college. But it was taking a toll on my body with my shoulders and my knees. I'd have to like warm up to get out of bed after a game almost. It was rough. So November, we played our last game against North Central, and I was going to give myself a week and be like, you know what, I'm just going to eat, drink, do whatever I want, just have a good time, and then I'll get on it. And then went to the grocery store and went grocery shopping with my parents, and I was like, you know what, never mind, like, let me go ahead and get started on this now. So from, I would say November 17th to March 20th, I think, or March 17th is when we went on spring break, I got down to 225.
Man. And I mean, you still kept the weight off, man.
Yeah, I gained a little back in paramedic school. Went back to 240, but now I've shed a little bit of that since paramedic school's over.
Yeah. So, I mean, now you go into paramedic school, you become a firefighter. You say, you wanted to do that, sometimes like in middle school, but, they took away the program in high school. But, not too many people really want to serve people like that. I mean, that's a big risk job, a high risk job.
Yeah.
I mean, what makes you like want to do that every single day?
I think it comes in part with like helping people, and we can tie it back into like offensive line. Like we didn't get much glory. We did the important job. We did a job nobody else really wanted to do. Nobody really wanted to come on the team and play offensive line, but we did our job and we helped out. And as a whole, we did a lot of work to help with that whole picture. So I think, and it was coming out of it, and I was like, I was missing the team aspect in my life with football. Didn't have that anymore. So coming into the fire service, it's like, well, now I got a whole new team. Still doing a job not many people,
Want to do.
It may seem glorious with the way, you watch these shows and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a get your hands dirty type of a job, and it is a high-risk job. But I think it's one of those things, being part of that team, that camaraderie of, like, being at the firehouse with the guys that you work with or the girls that you work with and stuff. It's just kind of gives me that team aspect and makes me want to push myself more, learn new stuff every single day, and like I said, I love it.
And I mean, it might sound like a nerd question, but like my mother and I, we love watching the show 911. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Are any of the scenarios kind of like that, or is it kind of just made for TV?
It's a lot of it's made for TV.
Does it grind your gears where you see people like, oh man, like firefighters get to do all that cool stuff, and it's like, nah, I mean, we don't do that every single day.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do it every single day. Every call is a different call. It could be a medical call, one, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're running on an apartment fire or something like that. But just the way they dramatize it and play it up, because Megan watches all of them. I think whichever city has a 911 show, she watches it. So all that like dramatized one that's not like the actual live cam and stuff, that.
And I mean, like, what has been, I guess, a call that you have been on that's like, man, I'm a firefighter. Like, I don't know how I made it out of there, but I did safely, thank God.
There was a big, I don't know if you saw it or not, but there was a big animal shelter in Orlando that went up in flames. And it was big. We ended up calling a second alarm, so we called a whole other additional units, like 6 other units came, and then we had them backfilled on the street leading into the place. And it had roof collapse, fire coming out of almost every single window. It was just locked doors. Luckily, they got like all the dogs out, lost a couple of cats, but it was just crazy because you walk in, there's stuff falling around you. You're trying to make sure.
When you said lost a couple of cats, Rose, my director, she has cats.
I apologize. I am so sorry.
That struck a nerve with her.
I am so sorry. But I mean, we did everything that we could and got every animal out that we could get out and stuff. But it was just crazy how much fire and how big this place was that we had to set up different divisions. So like all of these units were assigned to this side of the building. All of these units were signed up to this side of the building. Yeah. So it's just, it was just crazy seeing like the roof collapse and everything like that, being inside and working.
I mean, going from being a center for the majority of your life, playing a team sport like football, then becoming a firefighter, EMT, it's like, it seems like you're a selfless person. Well, you are a selfless person because I know you, so I can say that you're a selfless person. But what truly made you become this way? Like, who in your family or who in your life, made you realize, like, man, it's not always about me. If I can help out the next person, I will.
I'd say it was my parents, just the way they acted. My mom always looked to help out, her students wherever she could help out, whether it was giving them a ride somewhere or staying after school, to help them learn and stuff. And then my dad would help anybody that needed help. Yeah. They came and asked for it and everything, or if he saw that they needed help. I think it was just growing up seeing them and the way they act, and then my grandparents too, on both sides of my family, it was just, they always looked to help somebody out if they needed the help and everything. So I think they're the ones that shaped me and made me who I am. And it's just like, if somebody needs help them out. Like, it's the right thing to do. It's the good thing to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, I truly believe that too. I can say that about my parents and how they raised me as well. As, it's always about helping the next person, always reaching back and helping and bringing somebody else on the path that you're on. I mean, you and I, we go back. I mean, just the simple fact that I was your left guard and you was my center, so we was always right there. Then we almost went to college together, ironically, but we ended up in the same state. So it was like we were still close to each other, and I could always call you, and no matter what, it was never too far or too close. You was gonna be there and you was gonna show up for me. So I always appreciate that. I just have a couple more questions for you, and we'll get you out of here. But I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about going back to high school football. It wouldn't be right for you and I to be sitting on here and we're not discussing these situations. Who would you say was your funniest offensive line member?
The funniest offensive line member? I think I'm gonna out of the Beefy Boys and everything like that. I'm gonna throw Robert Provost out there. Just the way he was and the way he acted, and like his sense of humor. I think sometimes he was unintentionally funny. I
think the majority of the time he was not trying to be funny. He was just being himself.
Yeah, he was just being Billy.
I mean, I've never seen a 6'5" white guy act the way he acts, and was athletic as all outdoors, but very clumsy. But, I mean, I love him. I tell my dad the story all the time about where Michigan State came in, and they were like, oh, we want to offer you a scholarship. And he was like, oh, can Josh come? And it's like, bro, I'm barely 5'9". Like, they don't want me to come play at your school. But, that was just who he was. He didn't take anything too serious. He never thought, like, okay, yeah, I'm a pretty good football player. I can be, this. I can probably have a chance at the league. My thing is, what's your favorite memory besides, States playing high school football?
Oh, man, my favorite memory. I think it's got to be when Keno, I think we were playing, was it Varela? We were playing somebody. We were driving the ball down them, and we were on the goal line, and Keno wanted to run power so bad, and he kept telling Bronis, and so Bronis called a timeout. Bronis walked out on the field. Keno just kept repeating the same play, what he wanted to run over and over again, and Bronis like sitting there talking to everybody, and then he just gets mad. Typical Bronis throws the playbook down and told Keno, you want to call the plays? And Keno like shut up and like kind of just stood there. We all stood there, and then he like picks up his playbook and he's like, all right, we're going to run power. And like said the exact play that he wanted to run. Keno wanted to run.
Man, and me going back to South Dade and seeing a couple of the football games, it's a weird feeling because it feels like just yesterday we were out there, and now it's like we're almost coming up on our 10-year anniversary of not only graduating as seniors, but the state championship. But just, my last question on high school football, what does that state championship mean to you? Because obviously we're cemented in a legacy where it has never been done before down south in Homestead or Florida City, and it seems like it's going to be a little minute till another one comes. So how does that?
I mean, to be the first football championship that South Dade has brought home meant a lot to me because, like, growing up, I wanted to play for South Dade. I grew up 2 miles down the street. My mom went to South Dade. All of my aunts, uncles, they all went to South Dade. My grandfather was a part of the very first graduating class of South Dade. So for us, 60 years later, after his class graduated in 54 and us graduating in 14, to be able to bring home the first state championship in football for South Dade, it means the world to me. I don't wear my ring anymore like I used to. It sits in its box up on my shelf, but every once in a while, after talking to you or talking to somebody, like I go break it out, look at it, then just like everything floods back to me. The whole experience, every single snap, it's crazy.
It's just like I can close my eyes, and if I have that ring in my hand, it's like I remember every single thing that happened and what we went through. I mean, like you said, offensive line, you don't get the praise that you do, but let the quarterback get sacked. Oh, take them out. It's offensive line's fault. So I believe that's why we're so close, and we're still close to this day where we still talk to each other. So, I mean, I have no regrets about going to South Dade and playing offensive line. Only regret I have is I was trying to play D-line before I came to offensive line. But no, I mean, Garrett, man, I'll tell people this in the audience. You drove 4 hours down from Orlando to come be a part of this podcast for me. Mm-hmm. So, that says enough about our friendship in general. What's understood doesn't have to be explained. Regardless if we different colors, we brothers. Garrett Underwood, thank you for coming on the show. This wraps up another great episode of Opinionated Presents Hanging with Hicks. Keep it hanging.
Hey, where I grew up from, we was having fun. We ain't get no fuss, we stay under the sun. We would chill at the beach, then we go watch the heat.